Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you guys can hear me and both see me. Just share screen.
Okay, so even though you're not gonna see me, let me just say something. All right, so for those who are just joining us, I'm hearing the echo. We were just doing a brain twister game, basically seeing how our minds can actually be conditioned for interpreting even simple things, making mistakes based on how our mind has been previously conditioned. So part of what we're doing today is for our topic, can you spell good without God? We're looking at standards, we're looking at worldviews in how we can derive and evaluate morality or even right and wrong, true and false. And it's got a necessary component of that evaluation for the long-term consistency. I actually have another game, and those online can maybe join us along with those here. So it's simple. I just call this a good or bad. So I want to give you a list of different things, and you tell me whether you believe these are good things or bad things. And then I would want you to basically say why you believe in that way. Okay, so let me start. Cheating on a test. I don't know, Marjorie, since we had actually started with those person here, I don't know if you want to participate.
Sure.
Yes, so you need instructions again?
No, I think I heard you just now, unless there's more, that I should say whether I agree and why.
Yes, do you think cheating on a test is good or is it bad? What category, if you only had a black and white category to put it in?
Well, I mean, I think the first word answers the question. Cheating.
Cheating. So you're saying that it is self-evident because of the word cheating? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Self-evident as being bad or good? I know it might be silly. Why?
And in what society might cheating be good? I don't think any society in the world right now reached there yet, hopefully. But
Okay.
yeah, cheating as in bad.
All right. So I have heard that in some schools, sorry, there is a lot of
Echo.
yeah, right. So I've heard actually in some schools in the United States they've done experiments and they've told the students, once that teachers have left the classroom before and told the students that they must not look in the book or must not do this until they come back. It's not particularly cheating that they were evaluating, but to see which student would be honest, which student would not be. The students that were honest and said what they did, they actually evaluated them as being those that are not smart. So you do have persons with that philosophy that honesty is not necessarily a good thing. So in fact, the world has reached that stage, and what we are trying to see and explore step by step is on what basis, if you leave God out of the picture, do you have a firm basis to even say that something like cheating, or even worse, something like Hitler's decimation of the Jews in that society was accepted as being helping the evolutionary process along? So you do have societies, if you use society as a standard, we will question, which Marcel will get into hopefully, we'll question what the standard is Do we need a standard that's beyond human beings? And I would like, if anyone who joins us is not a believer in God, I would want to hear, how do you evaluate something like that? As how can you criticize that society if society or the individual is a standard for right and wrong? So thank you, Marjorie. I appreciate your participation.
May I make a point?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. That a group within a society does not often represent society. So the handful of teachers or the handful of persons who think that cheating is good may not necessarily represent the wider society. Just a thought.
Right. Sure. But the main point that we're making is about the standard. So whether or not it is a group of people or just an individual, does it require someone above human beings to have that reference for something to be truly right or wrong? And that's a question because we're going to be exploring step by step, since that is the objective of the club. We're not just saying and going yet. All right. So I did have other things on the list, but should I ask a few more? All right. So I see another person online. I don't want the persons in the room to get bored because I'm only doing those online. So let me see. All right. Having sex outside of marriage. Is that right? Is that good or bad, and why? That might be a complex question for a lot of people who are not roommates. Right? So anybody inside here wants to talk, or anybody online is open? It's bad. You said it's bad. Wow. Even though it's immoral. Why? Why? Because it doesn't align with the word of God. Okay, so you are using the Bible as a standard for your decision, your belief. Interesting. Can we use any other type of standard to say that that is bad? You wouldn't say that. All right, one more. One more is giving to the needy. Giving to the needy.
Or needy, or giving to the needy. Good. Yeah.
Okay. Even if it causes you to, what if you give your last to somebody else who probably you think needs it more than you? That's still good. So even with survival of the fittest, and why sacrifice something good based on what you think?
It shows a level of it shows a level of faith, and I feel like things are not going to so like you're going to go to the world, then somehow will come back to you.
But somebody else on a different world who had that say. We believe that it's the harm and actually helping him to hurt in the body,
All right, thank you for participating. Now we would go more into the presentation and discussion. I don't know if anyone else online or here has any questions based on what we've done so far. Have you seen the angle that we're basically coming from, basically trying to make you introspect as to why you believe some things are good, why do you believe some things are bad? Yeah, Yeah, okay. All right, so
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
I didn't hear when you started first, but I just wanted to know if in your discussion, did you say we must have a standard to judge something good or bad by?
Yes, that is the final point that we're going to come to, but we're doing it step by step.
Okay.
Yes, right. So
Because
that's
basically,
the objective.
right.
That is the objective, but we first wanted to introspect because our club is open to those with other belief systems, and we want them to see that they are actually, if they see something as objectively good or objectively bad, it would still require an absolute standard, and it can't be just opinion for something to be absolute.
Okay. Yes. Just
Right.
checking because I didn't hear from the very beginning. Yeah.
Right. No problem. Thanks for the
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. We'll be beginning now. So, hold on. All right. All right, so today we'll be speaking about, just confirm that you can see my screen. Can you spell good without God? All right, so this is a part one of a part two lecture. So hopefully you follow. If you have issues, you can stop me in between and I'll answer the questions. All right. This is not supposed to be a lecture, it's supposed to be a discussion. So feel free to ask as many questions as possible. Now, I took a lot of this information from Holman Quick Source, A Guide to Christian Apologetics by Doug Powell. It's very useful, and I invite you guys to actually look up the book and give it a read. It gives a lot of arguments for God. Some that I spoke about last year, some of the scientific arguments and philosophical arguments in this book, and it breaks it down very simply for you to understand. So with that being said, let's go. Morality. Now, we need to talk about it first. Is there such a thing as right and wrong? And do we necessarily need God to decide this? If you ask any atheist or any non-Christian, they will say, why do we need your God to be right or wrong? Can't we just get it outside of God? No, the question I'm seeking to answer is how do you answer objections like this? All right, because what they're entering now is what is called moral relativism. And what we're talking about, we say there's only one moral way is moral absolutism. All right, you're saying there's only one more absolute versus the people are saying that there are variations of morality that exist. All right, it's on a spectrum. So we're going to assume that you don't need God and just look on various implications that would follow. All right, so we're going to start first. Now, we know that morality is an attempt to create a system or structure of what is good and what is bad. All right, now all laws and is based on some moral code of right and wrong, good or evil. For example, we have a nation of laws, a constitution which dictated what is right and what is wrong based on how we define it. All right. Now, with that being said, we will now define what is moral relativism. Now, moral relativism says that morality is relative, not absolute. I want to show moral relativism in its popular form, and that is logically incoherent. That's what Peter Kreeft actually said. Now, relativism actually proves society and or individuals decide what is right and wrong, and those values vary from culture to culture or person to person. It's not objective, it's completely subjective, and if there's conventions and behavior that can dictate what is right and what is wrong, and it's subjected completely to change. So it could be right today and could be wrong tomorrow. It could be wrong today and then right tomorrow. Now, with that being said, there are three types of moral relativism. You can have cultural, you have cultural, conventional, and ethical. Now, the symbols I use actually is for a reason, right? So cultural means that based on the location, everybody have their own specific culture. That's why I use a symbol of the world to represent it on the slide. All right. For example, America have a different culture than we have here in Jamaica. You know, China have a different culture as well. East have a different culture than West. So their morals will be different as a result. You have also conventional. I use the symbol of a satellite to kind of represent power because it's usually enforced by power. All right, this type of morality, and then you have ethical. Now, this is no personal where each person gets to decide what is morally right and morally wrong. So those are the three types of moral relativism. So we'll first examine culture. Now, here in the West, based on this cartoon diagram, this is considered normal, right? The lady who just on the left is considered normal. The lady on the right in the East is considered normal. But look how they both describe one. Everything is covered but her eyes. What a cruel male-dominated culture. While the one from the East is saying nothing is covered but her eyes. What a cruel male-dominated culture. Now they're saying basically the same thing, you know, but they're looking at it differently. The young woman on the right is saying that it's more that she looks this way, but the young lady on the left is saying it's more that she has everything covered. They see how it can change from culture to culture because this is considered wrong in the Western culture, but this is considered wrong in the Eastern culture. So that's what we talk about cultural relativism. Each society decides their own morality based on culture itself. All right. Can you take it to another topic? Let's talk about abortion. This is a world map that discuss abortion and access to abortion from June, as late as of June 2022. Now, based on political elections, this may change. So it changes up to every 6 months or to a year. Sometime the map changes. Now, the ones that are in Finnish blue, it's available on request. The darkest, the lighter green is on social or economic grounds. This kind of peaches one is to preserve life. And notice the one that in orange is to save the person's life, and in red is prohibited. Notice on the geographical locations, the ones that are in south countries are the ones that typically is more likely to prohibit or make restrictions on abortion. Because the ones closer to the north, they're more liberal and say abortion at any time. Some even up to the knife can kill the baby. All right. So it's completely subjective based on the culture of that society. All right. Now, like I said, other cultures, just like the United States, permits abortion as legal options open to any pregnant woman for any reason in certain states, up to even the 9th month. I still have cultures like China that actually requires abortion under certain circumstances. Now, because we're speaking about cultural relativism, it says that because each culture is holding to their own view of morality, and because these views differ, there must be no objective morality, all right? Because every culture has the right to say that this is right, this is wrong. You can't say that they're wrong, all right? And there is no objective truth into what they were saying. Everybody have their own version. But here are some problems or issues with this cultural relativism. It observes morality and not prescribes it. Morality is not something that you can acquire. When you observe morality, it's basically stating a fact. Hold on, do I see a question here? Now in Kenya, it's up to 1 year possibly infanticide. Wow, I did not know that. In Kenya, you can kill a child up to 1 year in age.
Yes,
Wow,
that is possible, and especially in California, you can abort a child fresh out of the womb, and perfectly fine for no reason. You don't want the child. That's it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's Canada, and in California, you can kill the child fresh out of the of babies. We get to that shortly. All right. So, like I said, it does not basically state what it should be. It just states what it is. No, morality is prescriptive, meaning that it describes what morality, what is right and what is wrong, versus saying that this is right and this is wrong. All right. It prescribes what it should be, not what it actually looks like. All right. Hope you understand the difference. So at best, these are observations And these observations are simply statements of facts. Morals are descriptives of the ways things are, more prescriptive of ways things ought to be, not how things are, right? So things ought to versus how things are. Just because things are a certain way does not mean that they should be that way. All right, and we'll see, for example, as we go along. So when Popeye say, I am what is making a statement of fact, he's not making a moral claim. All right. If he said I ought to be what I am, then he'll be making a moral claim because he ought to be this way. Like he ought to go to school, he ought to be good, he ought to help the poor, he ought to, you know, all those things are moral claims. All right. Next thing, different answers can be obtained from the same question. That's another objection for cultural relativism. So we can ask each culture the same question and they can all give us different answers and all be right according to this theory, which makes no sense because of the law of contradiction, right? We can't be saying opposite things and both be correct. That don't make any sense. Either we're both incorrect, one of us is correct, or none of us are correct. But we can't all be correct saying opposite things. I cannot say this is blue, you say it's black, and you say it's yellow, I should say. I will all be right and it's objectively black. That don't make any sense. So this falls on its face. Just like there are many ways of saying things, there's ways of saying things. There can be many forms of morals, all right? And it's also self-defeat, all right? Because if you're saying opposite things, it's a contradiction in itself. All right, so you have the next form now, which is conventional relativism. So the society gets to decide what is right or wrong. Now, it differs from cultural relativism as it affirms that there are things that are right and things that are wrong, and it operates through what is called majority or what we call mob culture. All right. Now, do you guys have any examples of some form of conventional relativism that actually exists in our lifetime, or in recent history, I should say? Yeah, that is operated by a mob justice or majority, some stuff like that. Sorry? Like type of jungle justice, like the brother who hung by his family because he must have raped his like a daughter or something like that, just hanging. Didn't go to the courts, they just hanging. And everybody just celebrate and say, yeah, that saw that. No? It was sad, but here are some examples. Now, when Hitler put the Jews in concentration camps and killed 6 million Jews, that's a conventional form of relativism because he convinced the rest of Germany that the Jews was a subhuman, inferior race. Once he was able to convince them of that, they were now able to put them as subhuman and kill them. 6 million because of this type of belief system. All right? This belief system, which is stemming from atheism, and it really stems from evolutionary type of thinking, but that's a different discussion. Right. So, right, because he's enforcing based on legislative, right? And he has a problem behind it. We also offered is that anybody who came against him, he just killed them, got rid of them. So he had no opposition. So everybody who agreed with him still stayed alive. All the persons who were against him had to go and hide. So they couldn't outrightly say, we disagree with what he was saying. Now, you other dictators did this type of thing, like Stalin, who killed 12 million of his own people. These two persons, which is a lot of people don't know about it because they fought in World War, but they actually killed more people than Hitler, which is crazy, right? Stalin killed 12 million of his own people, right? Pushing his own agenda of what is right and wrong. Mao Zedong actually killed between 40 to 80 million people, pushing his type of relativism of what is right and what is wrong. All right? So this is how it would look. I wonder if you guys really think relativism is a nice way to go. But moving forward, here are some other issues with conventional relativism. Anyone who goes against society is described as evil. All right? A morality is treated like an art, meaning that it's fixed. They use it as a point of reference. But only version with this narco, we can prove it based on the map. So the narco can today, then Jamaica tomorrow, then Africa the next day, then Asia the other day. It's just based on how the mob decides the North Pole should be, which is kind of crazy, right? And what's the next issue with the most in society? Okay, echo is breaking up. You hearing me now? Are you hearing me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. Right. One of the next issues with it is that most of the persons who actually fought against this type of system were the ones who came against society, like Martin Luther King Jr., who came against slavery, Mother Teresa, Sir Benjamin Franklin. One of the realest persons who started the Civil War, helped end slavery in America. They all went against what society viewed as rights and what was society viewed as wrong. If we took this conventional relativism as gospel, they would be described as evil people. Gandhi, Muhammad, Buddha, all those people. They'll be, and even Jesus Christ. They'll be described as evil, one of the most evil of the people in the world. Kind of crazy, right? But that is conventional relativism. Now we're on to our final one, which is ethical subjectivism. Now the individual gets to say what is right or wrong for themselves and for themselves only, right? It's the most popular form of relativism. Typically we hear what is true for you is true for me, or what is true for me is not necessarily true for you. It's a popular claim. All right. So here are some issues with ethical subjectivism. It's incoherence, right? Because it proclaims all truth to be relative and there are no absolute truth. But if that statement is true, that is also an absolute truth. So it's committing the policy of self-exemption, because if it is, you're saying that all truths are relative. There's no such thing as absolute. For you to deny that, you're basically saying that this truth is an absolute truth. So it doesn't apply to itself. So it's self-contradicting and it breaks down. And people do not actually believe this as it's true. Because if you give them examples, they will all say that it's wrong. For example, racism, we all can say racism. But if you follow this form of subjectivism, relativism, I should say, they could say it's right for them to be racist against you, or you to say racism is wrong. It's right for them. May not be right for you, but it's right for them. What about this person who killed 7 babies and tried to murder 10? You can't put her in prison because it was right for her to kill those 10 babies, those 7 babies that she wanted to kill. 10. You can't say it was wrong for her to do that. That's your opinion. And who are you to force your opinion and your belief on us? So it doesn't make any sense and it breaks down. And even think about rape, a very traumatic experience. They could argue that it was right for him to rape her. He felt that that was morally good. You can't say it was wrong. She may not have liked it, but it's okay for him to do it. All right. So it breaks down at many levels. And when it's ever applied to a person who says they believe, they don't actually believe it. All right. Actually, I have a friend who was robbed at gunpoint, and I asked him if he thought it was okay for them to rob him. Immediately, he said no, because it don't make sense. How can you say everything is relative and then it's okay, everything is okay? But when you get robbed, it's not okay for the securities. Why is that not okay as well? It breaks down. Don't make any sense. All right. Now we're coming to, so we see that relativism don't make any sense. It breaks down, it's incoherent, it's not usable in society. All right. Now we're into its form of morality, like objective and or absolute morality. Now, morals contain a sense of obligation and oughtness that is universal, authoritative, and outweighs consideration of culture, time, place. All right. So let's say it again. It contains a sense of obligation, meaning that there's a set of duties that you must do. It's universal, that means it goes right across the world. There's regardless of the culture that you're in, it has some form of authority voice behind it. And you outweighs any consideration of culture, time and place. So if it's wrong today, it's wrong tomorrow, it's wrong forever. It's right today, it's right tomorrow, it's right forever. It was right in the past, and right this week. All right? Now, if you think about something like this, you'd have to be describing somebody like God, right? For it to be a sense of obligation, that means it must be somebody above and outside humanity to be able to describe this. Because how can you say that this person is right and the other person is wrong? It must be above us, outside of us. The fact that it transcends time and space, it must be timeless and spaceless. All right? So the only thing you could actually think that physically this guy could be God. Now we have to spell good with God. All right? But we want to see that there's some problems, right? Because people one of the main objections to this is that they're saying that there's evil in the world. But we have to describe what does that mean. So let's work through that assumption. Now, if you know that there's evil, we must assume that there must be something that's good, right? If there is good and evil, there must be some color between the good and the evil so you can say that this is red, this is blue. Now, if that is also there must be a moral law giver. So we're able to say that this is good and this is evil. Because if there's no moral law giver, there can be no moral law. If there is no moral law, there cannot be no good or no evil, and the question itself self-destructs. So for there to be any contradiction or complaint about evil, God must remain within the paradigm, because out of the paradigm, the question is irrelevant and self-destructive. Because according to an atheistic belief system, we're just a random collocation of atoms, we're just stardust, there's nothing, or everything is meaningless, and if that is the case, then why should it matter if I kill you or not? And out of the atheists, like, trying to remember his name. And he debated created the God, his name again. Richard Dawkins. He said that at the best there is no such thing as good or evil. We just dance to our DNA. All right. So a lot of the main atheists actually agree with the statement that if there is no God, there can't be anything as good or evil. Because it's dependent of God to be in the paradigm for good and evil to exist. Can someone be a moral atheist? Yes, that is actually possible because according to the Bible, the moral law is written on our hearts. You don't have to know God to be moral. That's not the argument we're making. We're making the argument we're making that without God there can be no such thing as morality. Because how do you even come to that idea that it's moral to be moral in the first place? Where's your point of reference? What is your starting point? Can't be any form of relativism. We just disprove it and we just show that it makes sense. All right. So morality and God. Now, if God made everything, then that makes God responsible for evil, right? Logical premise and conclusion. God is the author of everything. Evil is a thing, therefore God is the author of evil. All right? Now, the first premise is true. God did create everything. So it appears that in order to deny the conclusion, we have to deny the reality of evil. But we can't just deny it like that because we know evil exists, right? Now, the problem of evil relates to what would appear to be a contradiction in the idea of deity, right? The deity is a being that is all good, all powerful, and yet creates or allows or permits evil to exist. It is something of a problem, something that needs to be explained or rectified. I will try to do this in the next couple of slides. So spelling good with God. So if God exists, why is there so much evil in the world? The first thing, the problem of evil. What is evil, right? Did God really create evil? No. The first one, the problem of evil. James Edwin actually spoke about this and said in his book, The Faith That Persuades, the problem of evil is one of the most crucial protests raised by unbelievers against God. Which is true. The four horsemen of atheism actually describe it. Like Christopher Hitchens says that the problem of evil remains the most powerful argument against God. All right? And in a 2009 survey question where they asked, if you could ask God one question and you give you an answer, what would you ask? The most common response was, why is there pain and suffering? So we see that evil is a very pressing issue amongst the population, right? We show it from different ways and different intellectuals talking about it. Now, what is evil? Now, let's talk about something like hot and cold. If we were to describe hot and cold, how would you describe something as hot or cold? If you measure something that is hot, you're measuring the amount of heat that is present, right? But how would you describe cold? Can you measure cold? How do scientists actually measure? So fun fact, we don't actually measure. We measure how the degree in which something is hot, and we call it. Because cold is not an entity unto itself, and it's the absence of heat we describe as cold. So the fact that we can measure the temperature, there's a form of heat there, it's just very low. If there was no heat there, we could not measure it. All right? And this relates into evil because evil is not a thing in itself. It's a perturbation or absence of good. That is how you describe evil. So you can't create evil because it exists as an entity unto itself. It's a perversion of what good actually is. All right? As evil is not the presence of something material, even the absence of goodness, it is the absence of righteousness. Now, when God created human beings, He gave them intelligence, He gave them reason, and He gave them a choice. Now, you have free will versus compelled will. And you may be wondering why did God give us free will? And I'm saying that it goes back to the very nature of who God is. All right? Because there's 4 possibilities when He created the world. All right, the first thing He could do is create nothing, right? He could create absolutely nothing. When He created the world, He could create people, which is an amoral world. That means there's no such thing as good or evil, right? Then He could create a compelled world, where you only have the ability to do good, you couldn't do evil. Or He could create a world, which is the 4 possibilities that we live in, that there's a possibility of evil, and you give them the choice to do. Of all the 4 worlds, of all the 4 possibilities that exist, this is the only possibility that love can persist and exist freely. Because if I love you and you love me, you have to be free to walk away from me. And in all the other options, you're not allowed to do that. And God is, by definition, is love. He wants to be loved. In order for you to be loved, you have to give the freedom of choice not to love. Now, not Him. We not loving Him have its consequences and not following out His consequences. That is how evil came into the world. All right? But that is just it for today, because like I said, this is part 1 of a part 2 discussion. So I hope you guys understood, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm welcome to answer everyone. Any questions, comments, and we'll send you the presentation if you need to.
Right. Thank you so much, Marcel. So my question was also in the chat about how the persons denote evil and good without God. I don't know if you actually responded to it.
How persons denote evil or good without God?
Right.
Right, I'm saying that they don't denote it with God, but they're pointing to some form of reference point, right? And if you actually question them under all those presuppositions that they're holding, they know that they're actually moving from a morality that God has written on their hearts. They cannot say something is evil without there being a good. And if there is a good, there must be a moral law that differentiates between the 2 of them. And if there's a moral law, there must be a moral law of giver that transcends us as human beings. Because then everything is just relative and it's just a matter of an opinion. And we can just show you that opinions can lead to very dangerous consequences, like the Holocaust, World War II. These are not things that you joke around. Morality has to be objective and cannot be subjective. But I'm not saying that if you don't believe in God, you can't be moral. I'm just saying that without God, there will be no morality. No, you can actually describe that how wise God is the arbitrator of right and wrong, but that is a further discussion to be had in part 2 of the series, when we actually go more into the moral arguments for God. So I hope I answered that question.
Right. Thank you so much. So someone just came into the room and we want to give him the opportunity. We don't know your belief system or your name. but, or I'm not even sure if you know our topic. So we have been speaking about, can you spell good without God? So if you want to introduce yourself, I'm Sarah Buckland. This is Marcel. He's the leader, student leader of the club. And you? Oh, it's your third time.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so what I want us to do in the time that we have left is basically, because I don't want us to be presenting all of this and then you're not able to answer the question if somebody comes to you personally, can you be good without God? But there are basically 3 other standards that persons usually try to derive their morality from. And they were mentioned here. Can anyone remind me which standards were mentioned? Or even if you weren't here, do you know if someone says, for example, why cheating is wrong, but what standard would, for example, an atheist point to? Why they think rape is wrong, for example?
Cultural one.
Not sure. I understand this.
Cultural.
Yeah.
Culture, okay, culture is
Culture.
one. So for example, if someone insists they don't believe in God and they think you can be good without God, right? But how would they try to explain away? Have you ever actually interacted with someone who doesn't believe? How they were brought up, how their parents taught them? Okay, so they basically would get it from their family tradition kind of thing. Okay, so,
It was this teaching to say that if the reason I don't say that there is not all or it's not all, we will say that you can't do it.
That's actually called the youth of rule, giving them, and we'll be actually tackling in part 2. Because really answer to it is an option 3, right? That the reason why God can prescribe morality because it's his essence, it's actually his personality. So it's not outside or above him or against himself. All right? It's his very nature. And because according to our literature, or Bible, or scriptures, it says he's the same today, yesterday, and forevermore, that his morality will never ever change. It will always remain. But we'll talk a little more next time, part 2.
All right. So let me not wrap it up yet. So we talk about tradition as one source, and how would then you critique someone who says, oh, we just get it from my parents? So if you just get it from your parents and a rapist parents never teach them that, would it be unfair, for example, for the government to lock up the rapists? Why would you say, if they think it is, if they are, for example, I'm going to introduce a term, hedonism. If they are hedonists and they think life meaning is really for pleasure. So if I get pleasure from whatever I do, that is what life meaning is. How do you reason with that person to try and see, okay, is it really reasonable for you to think that right and wrong can only be derived from based on how you brought up? And can society really function based on that type of reasoning consistently? Can I just rely on how I was brought up and society still flourishes with our variety or diversity of the ways that we're brought up, and use that as a standard of good and bad? No, it cannot flourish. That's a subjective view. All right. So what if they say, all right, I'm not going to be subjective. It's not just how I brought up. Society can't function. So if society doesn't acclaim it, the group of people then, so a group of the majority of parents, so then they don't talk about in their individual family, but now they're appealing now to society. Do you think that is good enough?
As in that
Coming together to agree that this is what our society tolerates. Is that still good enough as a standard? Why not? Them as a group in society.
That's relative.
It's a society. They're coming to the wider society, infringe their
To infringe their belief? Or I'm not sure.
You're saying first.
Yes, so what I'm asking basically is, we said that it's not sufficient for us to get our morality from our parents and say that that is the standard of what good and bad is, because society has so many different diversities of parental, influences. But what if someone says, okay, it depends on, right and wrong is dependent on your society and on your culture. So it's not just my individual family. And you said that it's not enough. But why not? It's still relative. Okay. And then the group of, so what if, I'm trying to basically lead you in a conversation and trying to see how would you say to an atheist who insists on those standards that they're not sufficient. And
Some people kids who say, hey, no, this is what grow society. So I can say, no, that's crazy. And then I'll do some things.
right.
I say, that's relatively good. And I'll explain to them, say, this is, we are the people, I have that people working with people. Support them more in better people.
Well, most of the time you can't convince, but what you can do is to let them realize they're being inconsistent and that they have to please something absolute. So you would basically give them a question that they will have to think through and say, please, when you reach that stage, you plan to receive it. So most of the time what we say is that the Holy Spirit is hearts, right? So what we want and what we choose to do is doing this exercise. When we go out and interact with people, we will share the beliefs that we can use these situations as opportunities to challenge people in how they believe and make them realize that they have to do more searching of these. They're not as certain as they really portray themselves. They're not living consistent, their work is not working. They have to essentially borrow from Christianity. They have to essentially borrow at least from the theistic word, even if they don't get specific Christians and believe, right? It does not make sense to go an absolute standard above people, or else it's either the majority, so you have marginalized people, you're imposing, the majority is imposing your opinion, it's still opinion, right? An opinion by you as this first world country or the bigger countries and the next impose your view of right and wrong, this and always looks back without stopping if we cannot use something or creative. So that's really important.
And we could really point out as well. We're getting about consequences of the politics that are moral reason their possible movements. And here you can example the people start and also do examples with racism, nurse killing 78 people raping, the politics that are thinking, these things are permissible. But if you say that it's wrong, you're making an absolute statement or that's coming from. There's no time.
Right.
So from there means where the act of there for purposeful, right? With the start of the thought.
Right. Okay, so those who are online, we don't want to leave you out. We don't know if you have any questions. Beverly, Chad, Daniel, I know you're here. Did you learn anything today? Did you reinforce something that you think was useful for you? I guess.
Yes, I did learn.
Yes, Beverly, I'm seeing you, not hearing.
Yeah, I'm saying I did learn something.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to next week, where I want, that question of what he plans to discuss next week. Yeah.
Right.
Because we know we can, what is good for me, if we just depend on ourselves and say, well, this is good for me, and another person is going to say another thing. So we can't depend on that. That relativity can work. So
Right.
we have to have some standard, yeah.
Thank you for that comment, Beverly. And Chad, I don't know if you have any question or anyone else has any question, we can bear that in mind as we plan for next week's meeting.
No questions. This is just basically a refresher for me.
Yes.
Because there's these discussion points from before. The only comment I would add in terms of the relativity would be the argument that we on Earth rely on men to, aka the government, to make laws on behalf of us, and then we follow them with the hopes that they will have our best intentions in terms of what is right and what is moral, what is just in mind. Because if that's the argument, then there shouldn't be any laws. Then, because if we would be looking at God and saying that why we need God to be good or to have laws about what should be right or what should be done, and then we wouldn't even have rights. We would not have rights. We wouldn't have voting privileges. All the other systems and whatnot. It is yet relative from there if there's no lawgiver. So that's the only comment I would say.
Thank you. Great points made. So we'd like to just thank everyone who came, both in person and online. And we hope that you will tell a friend. We actually had a prize here for persons who brought the most people. But I don't know, Marcel brought the most people. For those online, I don't think you're all UWI students, but we have pizza. Sorry that you're going to miss out. But anyway, if you have any contacts at UMONA, you can always let them know. They can come to Physics Room C and join us 1 to 2:30 p.m. So we'll just spend the rest of our time eating and reflecting. And we wish you a wonderful rest of the day. I don't know if Marcel wanted to say the final things.
That's it. I'll see you guys next person.
We appreciate your time and God bless you. Bye.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you as well. And bye, Chad, as well.
Speak as a name of this. Thank you for.
Sure.